It is 2 o'clock here in Washington, D.C., and we will begin our webinar. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are welcome to ANAB free webinar on making quality work for everyone. My name is Natalia Larimer, and I will be the facilitator for this webinar today. Our presenter is Emma Dutton. Please note, we are recording this webinar, so it will be available for viewing in the future. Some logistics before we get started. Due to the high attendance, everyone will remain muted for the duration of the webinar. Please enter your questions into the Q&A box. We have planned time at the end of the webinar to answer as many questions as we can that are being asked. First, a little bit about our presenter. Dr. Dutton is an instructional designer for ANAB. She has provided instruction on a variety of conformity assessment topics to the forensic community as well as quality overall since about 2013. Prior to joining ANAB, Emma spent more than 11 years as a quality assurance manager in a forensic laboratory. Her portfolio includes over 12 years performing research and development in pharmaceutical and biotechnology industries, as well as teaching biology as an adjacent professor at several universities. With that, Emma, the floor is yours.
Hello, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be. This is Emma, and I'm going to talk a little bit about quality culture and making quality work for everyone through a shared value system. So the pursuit of quality. For some, it is our passion. For others, it's just a fleeting thought. And although quality is everyone's responsibility, there are times that we find that not everyone is on board with implementing or embracing more quality practices. Some feel it's a waste of time, others feel it's burdensome, there's more paperwork to do, and others think it takes away from productivity. Others may even be offended in the suggestion that their previous work was not of sufficient quality. So how do we get quality to work for everyone? We have to start at the foundation of our management system and build on the organization's mission and vision to establish a culture of quality with a shared value system. So during this webinar, we'll discuss how to establish that shared value system. We'll define quality and culture and think about what this quality and culture means to us. We'll review types of organizational cultures and their quality strategies, as well as discuss key elements for implementing a quality culture with a shared value system. So a shared value system, what does that look like? Because typically most organizations have two parallel but separate value systems. One, there's the mission of the organization, which typically goes to providing a quality product to the customer in a timely manner. And two, there's the mission of the individuals within the organization. This typically speaks to successfully contributing to the organization's productivity, but with a high production quality. Sometimes these two missions are in alignment, other times they're in conflict. We have to be able to recognize these two separate but codependent missions because each have supporting values and each have a quality system. To make quality work for everyone, you must establish this shared mission and a value system, both of which are supported by a shared quality management system. So how does all of this get established, and how do we go about establishing this, quote, shared value system? We need to first understand the organizational culture within which we work, and then establish a culture of shared quality, values, and mission. Then we must communicate quality in a way to our management so they understand the quality products, the timely delivery, the balanced cost to meet the mission and values of the organization. We also need to communicate quality in a way to individuals in the organization so they understand that their improved processes, meeting their technical specifications, supporting them, and providing confidence and trust and respect to help meet their individual mission and values. So keep in mind that everyone's input and communication about the shared mission, values, and quality systems are key. So let's start with the definition of quality. What is quality to you? The definition according to ISO 9000 is that quality is the degree to which a set of inherent characteristics fulfills requirements. Our requirements typically come from either the standards that we implement, like 17025, or our own internal laboratory requirements. The Oxford definition of quality is a degree of excellence associated with something or someone. And Joseph Duran, a proponent of quality management, defined quality as fitness for use. Is the product good to use? There is some subjectivity to all of these definitions, and we have to think about the product that we provide to our customers and how we define quality for our organization. So what does quality mean to you? What does it mean to your staff? What does quality mean to your customers? And what does quality mean to your organization? Let's talk about culture. The term cultura animi, first used by Cicero, means cultivation of the soul or mind. In current terms, culture is defined as the customary beliefs, the social forms or institutions, the arts, the achievements, and material traits of a particular nation, people, or other social group. It is a set of shared attitudes, shared values, goals, and practices that characterize the group. A society's culture is typically defined by the music, the art, the dance, the architecture, religion, and science and technology that are embraced by the peoples of that community. So what is an organizational culture? So an organizational culture is an expression of the employee's behavior and the meanings attached to their actions. Organizational culture does define the characteristic features associated with the quality of our work product. Organizational culture is also how an organization is viewed or perceived, both internally by its own employees, as well as externally by its customers and stakeholders. Thus, putting this all together, organizational culture is defined by the shared standards, principles, values, attitudes, and behaviors incorporated, adopted, and accepted by the individuals in the organization. Organizational culture really does affect how employees interact with each other, with leadership and management, with customers and stakeholders. It does reflect our mission, our values, our vision. And the bottom line is that while organizational culture is cultivated by the individuals within the organization, it really is accepted and fostered by management. That is, management allows the culture to develop and to be accepted. So think about the shared standards, principles, attitudes, and behaviors and values that have been accepted and adopted that define your organizational culture. So putting this all together, we really want to implement a quality culture that has a shared value system. So with this organization of quality, or with this definition of quality and culture, we now have an organizational culture of quality that is a degree of excellence defining the characteristic features of and associated with the work product. Basically, a quality culture is the organization's shared value system with all the standards that we use, with the principles that we put in place, with all the attitudes that come from the individuals in the organization and their behaviors. All of this collectively results in an environment that is conducive to the establishment of a standard or level of quality or achievement that we put into that final product. Keep in mind that in the end, the level of quality in our work is eventually evaluated and ultimately assessed by our customers and stakeholders. So think about the level of quality that is acceptable to you. Establishing and maintaining or promoting a culture of quality really is essential for an organization to be productive, successful, effective, and efficient. We have to think of the level of quality that we want in our organization, and we have to think about all those principles and values that are meaningful to us to go into that culture of quality. But how does one really go about establishing and maintaining this culture of quality, especially when we have some that are dragging their feet or their heels or kicking or screaming and not wanting to embrace or implement the culture that we're trying to establish? We really need to try to establish and promote this culture of quality that is conducive to both the organization and the individuals working within that organization. It's really not dependent on the type of organization, that is public versus private, or on the size of the organization. Establishing that culture of quality is dependent on establishing that shared value system where all the employees are involved, all of them have a say, all of them have input in the development of and understanding and embracing the mission, vision, goals, and quality values. So let's take a look at the types of organizational culture that we might have already in place. Keep in mind as we go through these various types of organizational cultures that there's no right or wrong organizational culture, and one type of culture is not better than the other. It's just different ways to manage and lead individuals in that organization to provide the quality product that you desire. First, let's start with a clan culture. Clan culture has an inward focus. This type of culture is typically what we see with small businesses, small startups, or maybe family-run businesses. A clan culture nurtures those that work within the organization, and it also emphasizes those interpersonal relationships. It emphasizes communication and collaboration. Basically, it all strives for cohesion, getting everyone on the same page and engaged, and it builds morale. It makes everyone feel safe, feel valued, supported, and respected. And a clan culture will break down those barriers to form those tight-knit teams, or basically one big happy family. There are some quality strategies that are employed by a clan culture. These include empowering your employees, letting them make the decisions at the lowest possible level, getting more participation, getting involvement, seeing that everyone is happy, that they're on board, getting their input, being respectful, and building those teams and having a more cross-functional teamwork rather than having one person make the decision. So it's more of a horizontal type of organizational culture. In this type of culture, you typically get more buy-in to the organization goals and objectives and how to meet those goals and objectives because everyone's involved. A clan culture also fosters that open communication and typically has more horizontal communication covering all the sectors and units within that organization, and it incorporates more recognition of employees. There are some disadvantages to a clan culture, however. The bigger the organization gets, because of that horizontal culture, there may be the perception that there's a lack of leadership because no one person will stand out and take the reins to lead. And there may be even a lack of discipline or a lack of decision making. That is, the perception could be no one's there to lead or make decisions to move the organization forward. So some might feel stalled in the direction of the organization. Individuals might also lose sight of where they fit into the organization, and some may be unwilling to speak up in those situations where their ideas or opinions do not coincide with the group's consensus. So you might get stuck into some of the group think type situations. Now let's look at adhocracy culture. Adhocracy culture has an outward focus. The organization rewards innovation, initiative, and taking risks. An adhocracy culture is poised to jump to the next big wave, idea, or innovation. They want to be the leader and the most innovative company that there is. These organizations expect change and they embrace the change head on. This example or examples of an adhocracy organization is like tech companies where they're right there, entrepreneurial, dynamic, visionary companies jumping on that next big wave or big idea and embracing it and moving forward. That adhocracy culture aims high and frequently achieves those heights, both in terms of profit margins and employee engagement. The adhocracy culture does reward confidence and creativity, and the door is always open for those people with the next big idea because they want to bring in those people and put the company in a position of moving forward. It is an environment that supports the individual's professional progression, where the quality of what you do really brings uh, the culture um, to the forefront, and that's what counts in this situation. Like clan culture, it does offer excellent flexibility, but it adopts that outward focus with a keen eye on the future and the next big thing to get on the market. Adhocracy culture will ask questions like, what can we do that no others can do or aren't doing? This type of culture can be highly motivating. People feel the independence, they feel motivation, and they want to be able to brainstorm and bring in that next creative solution or idea. Because an adhocracy culture is forward thinking and visionary, this type of culture is good at anticipating needs. They're good at brainstorming, they're good at finding creative solutions to get their product to the market. It does embrace employee suggestions, more process innovation, as well as more thoughtful risk taking, and tolerates first time mistakes. In addition, there's often more listening to the customers to see about meeting their needs and what they want. Some of the disadvantages, though, of an adhocracy culture is that it may foster competition within the workplace, and this could foster excessive stress and anxiety amongst coworkers. Also, when a business takes on a big risk, there is always that chance of a big failure that comes with that big risk. This could also lead to stress and anxiety. Now let's take a look at a hierarchy culture. Hierarchy culture, also known as a control culture, has strict clarity of roles and responsibilities. It is a top to bottom management style with leaders and decision makers at the top within an established chain of command. Everyone knows their place, their roles, their responsibilities, and the needs of the company come first. This is a traditional corporate culture. With this strict chain of command structure comes efficiency, coordination, and organization. There's a lot of stability and control. Unlike the risk-taking adhocracy culture, this model is all about policy, planning, process, and precision. The goal is steady growth. This is through an incremental change where stability and a smooth running business are the priority. In a hierarchy culture, there is a sense of security and a clear path for promotion with a lack of competition. So there's minimal stress on that promotion because typically you get promoted within the hierarchy of that culture. And there's increased status and influence that comes with that promotion. This can be very motivating for some employees. The disadvantage is that stability can quickly turn into rigidity with little room for spontaneity, little room for creativity, little room for individual needs being met. There's no innovative spirit. Companies can be slow to adopt or adapt to change that is coming. They're slow when it comes to addressing risks, and sometimes they become less competitive because they can't keep up with the state of the art. Basically, they could become stale and stagnant. In addition, your life experience is less important than your position in the hierarchy. This culture can become rigid and often fails to accommodate individual needs for flexibility. Meanwhile, recognition through promotion can bring unhealthy levels of competition. It can cost more as well. With multiple layers of upper management, it can lead to higher costs to the business, putting pressures on budgets, spreading financial incentives more thinly across the rest of the organization. And lastly, let's talk about a market culture. Market culture is the most aggressive of the culture types. For market culture, there are workplace-driven targets or benchmarks or deadlines. These deadlines need to get the results or product out the door. Typically, staff performance is closely monitored to ensure that everyone is meeting the deadlines. Like a hierarchy culture, the market culture needs stability to function, and it also has a level of control because it limits flexibility to its employees. A market culture is also outward focused, keeping its sights on the customer and how to beat its competition, similar to an adhocracy culture. This type of culture is often what we see in big and or long-established companies. The quest for market culture organizations is that they are seeking the big win to benefit customers, stakeholders, and employees. So they're out for the competition. There are typically ambitious leaders in these types of cultures. They push achievement and results, and they focus on the success and reputation of the organization. For market culture, the rewards can be generous, however, with financial incentives and with workplace encouraging professional development. So there are some benefits to having or to working in a market culture. The primary disadvantage, however, of a market culture is burnout. This stems from individuals being pushed constantly to achieve in a highly competitive environment. This stress can impact employees' health and well-being and their ability to be productive. It can also affect morale. So think about the type of culture that might be in your organization. Most often, we find that our organizational cultures are a mix of those four types of cultures. And it's not necessarily strictly one type of culture or another, but it can be something like this, where we're trying to achieve both inward and outward focus, as well as maintain stability and control, while also providing sufficient flexibility to individuals and individuality. So we have what looks like this grid of an organizational culture where we've learned to select and implement those aspects of those four types of cultures that we discussed, where we can input the amount of stability that we need, the amount of control that we need, as well as keeping that flexibility and the individuality there for our employees and continuing to focus not only inward but also outward. And this really depends on the needs of the organization and of the customer. So think about your organizational culture. Whether it is a clan, adhocracy, hierarchy, or a market culture, or a combination of these types of cultures, we still need to think about this culture and think about how we can embrace quality strategies into our culture to establish a quality culture with a shared value system. Again, it doesn't matter the type of culture you have, whether it be one of those types discussed or a combination of those cultures discussed. In any culture that is adopted, you need to think about the quality of your culture and how you can establish that shared value system. So we're going to look at a few key elements for implementing a quality culture with a shared value system, and how doing so will get everyone on board. So how do we go about establishing a shared value system? Really, the first step is to implement a quality culture and define your core values and then establish that shared value system, because this is really at the heart of any organizational culture. Go inward, look at your values. Again, there's no right or wrong shared values. You just need to decide what values you want to emphasize, taking into consideration both the organization mission and the individual missions. The shared value system really is based on the organization's mission, the organization's vision, goals, objectives, and the quality strategy that's implemented to meet those goals and objectives and to support the mission and vision. So in the end, we want a shared mission, we want a shared vision and shared goals and objectives and that shared quality. The mission is really about why you exist. Why are you there? What is the purpose of the organization? What are you offering to your customers? Get with your employees, sit down, have that conversation, and ask them, do you know the mission statement? Why are we here as an organization? Why are you here as an individual? What is it that you're contributing? What is it that you want to contribute to the mission of this organization? And come up with that shared mission statement. Why are we here? The vision statement is really sort of an inspiration or what you aspire to be. This is where you want to be, where you want to go, what you want to look like in the future, and how you want to be perceived by your customers. This also needs to be discussed with your employees. Ask them, where do you think we want to be? How do you want to be perceived? You're a part of this organization, and we want this organization to be perceived in a certain manner. Where are we going? What is our vision for the future? The goals and objectives provide information as to what you want to accomplish. These should go to support the mission and the vision of the organization. And then that shared quality or shared value system, and all of this comes together, is really the strategy that you want to put in place to meet your goals and objectives to support the mission and the vision. So while the mission and the vision may already be established for your organization, it never hurts to go ahead and stop and take individuals or take that time to have that communication with the individuals in your organization regarding your mission and your vision. You should get everyone involved, get their input regarding the goals, the objectives, and the quality strategy. All of these things go to define your shared value system. It really does lay out the direction and the expectations for the organization. It gets everyone on the same page and really provides those individuals with the opportunity for involvement and helps get their buy-in. So to me, this is the foundation of establishing that shared value system. Right at the core of what it is that we do, we need everyone to be on the same page and have buy-in as to what is our mission, what is our vision, how are we going to accomplish and support that mission and vision? And what is the strategy that we're going to use to get there? What is the quality that we want to put in place? And have that basic understanding on what quality means to everyone. Keep in mind that part of that shared value system also integrates quality concepts that foster a Kaizen mindset or a continual improvement philosophy. For a Kaizen mindset or continuous improvement philosophy, there are some standards from ISO that really embrace this as their foundational philosophy. One of those standards is ISO IEC 17025. It fosters a continual improvement mindset. There are multiple requirements in ISO 17025 as well as under other standards that address the Plan, Do, Check, Act of a continuous improvement system. It really can be used as a tool for establishing a shared value system and for integrating a continuous improvement management model of Plan, Do, Check, Act. This is also known as Deming's wheel. First, we're going to plan what we're going to do. We're going to write it down. We're going to define it. We're going to look at our goals, come together collectively, have that mission statement, vision statement, talk about our objectives, our goals, and our strategy for how we're going to get there. It lays out the expectations. And it's vitally important to have everyone involved in the planning stage because then they embrace it as their own. This is their management system. Then we do it for a while. We put it in place. We do or we follow all of our requirements, from our management system requirements to the standards that we might have implemented into our management system. After we do it for a while, we check it. This is the check step where we go and audit and we ask, how are things going? How are things working? What's not working? Are we meeting our expectations? Are we meeting our customers' needs? Are we meeting our individual needs? Are we fulfilling our objectives and our goals? And after we check it, then we act on that and we improve the management system by changing the management system, tweaking the management system, or adding new things to the management system. And this is a continuous process of Plan, Do, Check, Act. Those organizations that have used quality as the foundation of their culture and have embraced this Kaizen mindset of continuous improvement have really been successful in establishing a shared value system. We have to remember, though, that an organization's culture is about the people, their personalities, their behavior, the leadership in the organization, and the management of that organization. And all need to be involved in this process of Plan, Do, Check, Act. When you go about establishing your shared value system, also think about the ethos, pathos, and logos of the organization and where these three elements come into play, because all three have to be addressed to have a very stable management system. It really does set the direction, it defines the expectations, and it provides a balanced framework for a culture of quality of continuous improvement. So let's look at these definitions or more at ethos, pathos, and logos. First, let's talk about ethos. So ethos, this is a Greek word meaning morals or showing moral character. Ethos are the principles, the values, or the guiding beliefs of the organization. And as we have already discussed, this is central to establishing that shared value system. This is really the ethics, the credibility, and the integrity of the organization. Ethics is nothing without integrity. ISO IEC 17025 does require the organization to establish their ethos. There are multiple requirements that talk about impartiality, that talk about conflicts of interest, that talk about confidentiality. There are also requirements that talk about your structure and your personnel requirements. So you have to think about that shared value system. Think about the ethos of your organization and what type of integrity do you expect from your employees? What is the level of ethics you require? It really is of the utmost importance that organizations establish and foster a quality culture of exceptional integrity. Pathos. Pathos is a Greek word meaning a quality as of an experience that arouses feelings or sympathy, or feelings of sympathy, or any strong feeling such as passion or compassion. Pathos is appealing to the emotions or the feelings. Yes, even in 17025 and other ISO standards, there are clauses that speak to the pathos of the organization. We have to check in with our employees. We have to see that they're feeling okay. We have to supervise in such a way that we foster an environment that is healthy so they have a good mental and physical well-being. We have to seek customer feedback and see how they're feeling about the product that we're providing. And we have to address those complaints. We have to talk about the effectiveness of the management system, what's working, what's not working. All of this generates those feelings of passion, compassion, or feelings of sympathy and arousal. We can't forget about the pathos of the organization. We have to embrace the passion, the emotion that we bring to our work. And we have to address things in the workforce so individuals do feel safe and are passionate about the work that they do. So our passion and emotion is really central to the driving force for why we do what we do. And lastly, let's talk about logos. So logos also comes from a Greek word meaning principle of order and knowledge, logical arguments or reasoning, or intellect or competence. This goes to the training, it goes to the competence, it goes to the learning, the continuous education uh, of our personnel that we hire and put in our organization. There are many requirements in ISO 17025, especially Section 6, regarding personnel that regards competence and training. There are also additional requirements that address continuing education and learning and having things in place so individuals can maintain their competency. This is where I've seen many organizations spend the majority of its resources in developing the competence of individuals that are doing the work. And it's very important that we do this. It's very important that we give them the tools, the knowledge, the experience that they need to provide that quality product to our customers. We must ensure that we have competent, well-trained, and educated people. Not only those performing the work, but we also must provide training and education to our managers and leaders so they can develop their competence as well, because it's our managers and our leaders that establish and promote the culture of quality. All of this comes together thinking about our organizational culture, thinking about developing a shared value system, thinking about the ethos, the pathos, the logos, and implementing a continuous improvement culture. All of these things come together to help us contribute and establish that shared value system that promotes that culture of quality. So I encourage you to identify your organizational culture, establish a shared mission, vision, and values, integrate that Kaizen mindset of continuous improvement, and think about how you are addressing the ethos, the logos, and the pathos of your organization. All need to be addressed for stability in that organization. All will help you establish that shared value system that in the end will provide a culture of quality. Having that value of a shared value system does help you establish that culture of quality. Again, you get to define what that quality means to you. It gives a clear understanding of the mission, the vision, the goals, and the objectives for everyone, so everyone can embrace that. It helps management and leadership give the support and the structure that they need to the individuals in the organization. And it really comes back to looking at a systems and process approach, where you're putting management systems in place that have this shared vision, mission and goals and objectives and values to give you the processes that you need to help meet the quality product in the end. You do get commitment on all levels through the involvement of the people. Get them involved from the get-go so they can embrace and have buy-in into that management system. It gives you that customer focus where you're focused on meeting the needs of your customer, and it does embrace that continuous improvement mindset. So I want to thank all of you for joining us today for this seminar or this talk on establishing a quality culture. If there are any questions at this time, uh, please go ahead and type those into the Q&A pod session, and I'll have Natalia look at those questions and provide them to me. So that is all that I have for you today on establishing a quality culture. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Emma. What a great presentation. We've had quite a few questions come through, and I will get to those after we discuss some additional resources available for accredited laboratories and anybody else that is interested in quality and accreditation. We have webcasts that are free, but they are pre-recorded videos that are providing additional information on accreditation and standard requirements. Of course, we have free webinars. They are monthly, and they usually happen on the last week of the month between Tuesday and Thursday. We try to make it at 2 p.m. And they're live informational sessions offered on a variety of topics. The ANAB blog page has a wealth of information related to risk, accreditation, quality, standard requirements, and many other topics. And of course, we offer live, online, and in person, as well as self-paced training in many areas, including internal auditing, standard requirements, measurement confidence, and risk analysis. Before I get to the questions, I do want to bring your attention to something that doesn't happen very often. We are planning a special one-day training session for October 7th, 2021. This course will provide attendees with multiple perspectives on how to ensure that quality standards are seen as a value adding, taking into account the multiple perspectives of compliance, performance, risk, and continuity. This is going to be one-at-a-time offering, and we may repeat if there is demand. However, at this point, we only have one date assigned in it. There will be limited attendance available, so to allow for interaction. So please register early. The information will be posted on our website before the end of this week. And without further delay, we'll get to your questions. Emma, the first question is, what advice do you have for employees who work in a lab where there are employees the ones who are trying to implement the new quality practices? But those in a management position, including the quality manager, express that they feel these practices are a waste of time, are too burdensome, and make the statement that the way we have always done it has been working for decades, so we don't need to make this unnecessary changes.
That's a lot of information to comprehend in one sitting. So I'm wrangling over all of this because it's a lot, and I know how you feel. And again, it's my personal advice or opinion. Understanding that there are times when you want to implement additional new quality practices, but you have maybe a hierarchy type of culture where the decision to implement those practices have to go to your supervisor or your boss, and they feel that, you know, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, right? That's what I've heard before, that this is going to cost too much money. It's going to take too much time, that we need to continue to work on the backlog or work on getting the work product out the door. My advice coming from my quality manager perspective is you're really going to have to lay out your perspective on what the benefits are going to be in the long run for implementing these practices. And it's not easy, especially when you're in that type of environment where the managers can't see your perspective on why this is going to improve the process and how you do your work. So if you can give them the benefit to the customer in the end, and how this is going to really benefit the customer, and how the customer is going to be more on board with this change, then they might be more inclined to implement those types of quality improvements. Also, depending on the customer and depending on the process that you have in place, and I'm coming from a forensics perspective, there's multiple customers that are involved. So it could be not just the customer that's getting the end product or the report, it could also be the judicial customer where it might benefit in the testimony end of things. So really trying to put in place how this is going to improve your process to benefit the organization in the end, and how it's going to improve the quality of the product for the customer in the end. And it could take some time to put those arguments out there to win over the management perspective.
Thank you, Emma. Next question is, What are the best practices for the tight link between quality and work in the field of occupational health and safety?
I'm sorry, Natalia, could you repeat that again?
Yeah, give me a sec. I'm going to also send it to you just in case you want to read it through. What are the best practices for the tight link between quality and work in the field of occupational health and safety?
Well, that's a great question. And somewhat out of my league as I haven't worked in occupational health and safety. But you're right, there is a tight link between quality and the work in that field. And so some of the best practices that I have used between quality and the work product, and this again is coming from a forensic perspective, because I think they're tightly linked there as well, is a lot of those practices that we put in place is some of the monitoring practices where we're looking at that continual improvement of that process. So have those checks and balances in place and have it in a situation where you have employees willing to talk about what's going on and how they're doing their work without the fear of it being punitive. So having that open communication culture, letting people know that talking about what's working and really what's not working is the best practice that you can have. So because they've got to maintain that link between the quality and the work and make sure that they have a reliable, accurate product that's going out the door. So open communication and facilitating that continuous improvement process.
Thank you. Next question. Our culture is currently a clan culture. If you have a discipline that resists continuing education, even with management support and encouragement, how do you address this without sounding condescending, punitive, or favorizing other discipline and employees?
Yeah, very interesting situation. I often haven't had people resist continuing education. Most often people are looking forward to that. But you're right, sometimes, people don't want to take the time. They're too busy doing other things. They don't want to leave the office or the laboratory. They don't want to travel. Um, so yes, you sound encouraging. We need to make sure that individuals that are working in the environment continue their education. So maybe put continuing education topics out there a different way, where it might be more conducive to their individual needs. There may be individuals that can't travel for some reason. Maybe they have obligations with their family or home life that doesn't allow them to travel. So try to sound encouraging by giving them ways to get their continuing education that might be better suited for them individually. It shouldn't be punitive. It should be favoring them as an employee to help them grow and learn in their discipline.
Thank you. What are some of the strategies for getting non-management employees involved in quality practices?
So I'm reading over the question. So I have found again for non-management employees involved in quality practices is to build those teams, to let them know that, within their discipline, their sector, their unit, for whatever work that they're doing, it is a team approach. And they're all their input is valued and appreciated. So for them to accept a quality practice within their discipline, they're the people at the bench doing the work, go and ask them, what do you think about this? What do you think needs to be improved? What do you think is working well that we might be able to implement in another area? So just talking to them, getting their input, letting them know that they're valued, that they're respected, and that their opinion counts, sometimes is the best way of doing that. I know oftentimes as a quality manager, I would get too busy to sit down and stop and have that conversation. But when I did have that conversation, they all appreciated that type of input and they all felt valued as an employee. And then once they feel valued, once they feel that it is their management system, it is their procedure, it is their method, and the way they go about doing their work comes from them, then they tend to embrace it more quickly.
Next question. What advice can you provide for a startup company or organization that struggle with quality and resources?
Yes. That's a big one, and it's wide open, right? The advice to provide to startup companies. The biotech company I worked for was a startup company, and you're right. We struggled with bringing in that quality and the resources. As a startup company, you don't always have the monetary resources to do what you would like to do at the level of quality that you would like to do it. Uh, it is a slow process to get to that point. But I would say at the very get-go for that startup company, go back to what we discussed here, setting up what does quality mean to you? Because you really have to start with that level of quality that you want to provide to your customers or in the end, and start with that and put it in place. Yes, and it might take money and it might take resources, but in the end, putting that in place first is going to benefit you in the long run. It's going to be more difficult not to do that and then have to go back and redo what you had in place.
Wonderful, thank you. Next question. What resources are there for new quality managers?
Oh, very good question. I have found for forensic quality managers that there are some resources out there, like the American Society, American or the Association of Forensic Quality Assurance Managers. There are other organizations out there like ASQ, American Society for Quality. There are lots of books out there for new quality managers that deal with things like corrective action, that deal with um, doing corrections, putting in place document control, and there are several training opportunities out there as well for new quality managers. I know we at ANAB do offer some courses that go directly to quality managers for risk-based thinking, for root cause analysis, and the corrective action process, and just understanding the requirements. So from training opportunities from various organizations, from ASQ to ANAB, to professional organizations like the Association of Forensic Quality Assurance Managers, you can find some of those resources too, books and journals and articles on quality management. Also, Six Sigma is out there that could help quality managers and other types of training to that nature.
Thank you, Emma. Next question. When there are two organizations with very different cultures undergoing a merger, how do you handle that transition and decide what to keep and what to throw out?
I laugh at this because I've been in that situation, um, both as a bench worker and as a manager. And it's difficult. It's difficult. This takes a lot of work on the core leadership in that organization to look at those two different cultures and to really evaluate what works and what doesn't work. So leadership at that level, your top managers are going to have to come together and look at these two different cultures and get the input from the people from those two cultures. And to think about now, how do we develop this combined mission, vision, and goals and objectives. It takes time to do that as a management team and as leaders. But really, it's starting with that transition and looking at what do you want your product to look like in the end, and really what is the mission now with these two companies that are coming together. Yep. You may have to break it up into small segments if there are multiple units or sectors within that organization. Put a team leader in charge, build the teams for each of those sections, and have each section go through together with a combined group from both sides. Yeah.
Thank you, Emma. I don't think I see any more questions related to the webinar. If your questions has not been asked or asked and answered, please type to me now just to make sure I did not miss it. Before we go, I did get a couple of questions asking for a link where information on the special session will be posted. I am putting the link in the chat. I will have the information posted there hopefully before the end of today, if not definitely tomorrow. So you should be able to access it from there. And yes, I'm getting more questions about, yes, the recording of this webinar will be posted I'm guessing by the end of this week on our website as well. So you will have access to this recording. Okay, I don't see anything more. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you for your questions, and have a wonderful rest of your day, night, morning.
Thanks, everyone.